Hello, thank you for joining us today. I want to share a word of encouragement with you that the Lord has been speaking to my heart for about 3 weeks now. And it's in the book of Luke, chapter 24. And the story I want to read picks up right after the women went to the tomb to see Jesus. And we're going to pick up in verse 4. And it says, "They stood there, stunned and perplexed. Suddenly, 2 men in dazzling white robes, shining like lightning, appeared above them. Terrified, the women fell at the ground on their faces. The men in white said to them, 'Why would you look for the living one in a tomb? He is not here, for he has risen.' It says, 'Have you forgotten what he said to you while he was still in Galilee? The Son of Man is destined to be handed over to the sinful man, to be nailed to a cross, and on the third day he will rise again.'" And there's a few things I want to go back to that verse. In verse 5 it says, "the living one." It says, "Why would you look for the living one in a tomb?" And when you read in the Aramaic language, it translates to the life. Not just life, but the life, which is Jesus. And I just thought that was really cool. And then in verse 6 it says, "Have you forgotten?" And I just thought, wow, have you forgotten? It's been 3 days. It's been 3 days since Jesus said, "This is going to happen, and then I will rise on the third day, and you will be with me." And I just think sometimes in my life, how easy it is for us to forget what Jesus said even 3 days ago, you know. And I'm going to skip over to verse 8 where it says, "All at once." And I love how this says all at once, because I can see the women just thinking and being overwhelmed with all the thoughts that they remember from Jesus. And it says, all at once, they remembered his words. And I just love how Jesus is so gracious and reminds us of the things that he has said. It says, "Leaving the tomb, they went to break the news to the 11 and to all the others of what they had seen and heard." I want to skip over to verse 13. Where it says 2 of the disciples were actually on the way to Emmaus, and they were just walking, talking about everything that had just happened. And I want to start in verse 15 that says, "They were in the midst of a discussion about all the events that had happened in the past few days when Jesus walked up and accompanied them in their journey." Verse 16 says, "They were unaware that it was Jesus walking alongside them, for God prevented them from recognizing it." And it says, "Jesus said to them, 'You seem to be in a deep discussion about something. What are you talking about so sad and gloomy?' It says they stopped, and the one named Cleophas answered, 'Haven't you heard?'" The next question, I can see a little bit of sarcasm, and he says, "Are you the only one in Jerusalem unaware of the things that have happened over the last few days?" And I love Jesus how he says, "What things?" So he's like, "Come on, tell me. I want to see if you remember," because the women just forgot 3 days after. So I love how he says, "What things?" And then they go on and tell him exactly everything that had happened. And I want to make a remark on verse 15 where it says, "Jesus walked up and accompanied them in their journey." And I want to remind us all, because I need reminding too, that Jesus has given us promises, and we can't forget. This is a time where we need to remember the things that he has said in the past, the things that he said 3 days ago, the things that he's speaking to us today. And I want to, in verse 31st, I want to skip over to verse 31st where it says again, "All at once, their eyes were opened, and they realized it was Jesus." So not once, but twice, the people that had walked with Jesus had forgotten. But Jesus, in his graciousness and full of mercy, says, "All at once, I'm reminding you." So today, all at once, I'm praying that we remember those things. And these two stories, I think it's how, it's not funny, but it's interesting how they were both, in both stories, they were in the waiting. They were waiting to see Jesus. They knew he had resurrected. They knew he was alive, but they didn't know where he was. And to look back, all along he was with them. So today, in the waiting, I want you to remember that there is a meeting in the waiting. While you are waiting for your marriage to see a breakthrough, while you're waiting for your loved ones to come to Christ, while you are waiting for salvation of friends, or you are waiting for healing or deliverance from an addiction, there is meeting in the waiting. And Jesus wants to meet you right where you are and remind you all at once of his promises. Whatever it is that you're facing today, whatever it is that you're going through, know that Jesus walks with you and he accompanies you in your journey, because there is meeting in the waiting. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you're encouraged by this word. Have a blessed week.